Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve Podcast. Today's guest is a professional singer-songwriter all the way from London. I don't know why I said all the way. It's not that far. It's not far from me, but it might be far from you. Her name is Nathalie Miranda. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Christian. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I've had a bit of a podcasting break as far as recording because I had a bit of a crazy schedule where I was recording every single day for like 15, 20 odd days. And then I've had a period of not recording. And now I'm like, and I always enjoy it. I always love doing it. But at the same time, now I've kind of realized like, okay, I think I understand the kind of, how can I put this, schedule I should go for so as to not have too much going on. As I'm sure you can relate, when you're doing a lot with music and you get too much at one point and you have to kind of just have a day where you don't do anything.
100%. I definitely feel that very often.
It's like I saw the other day, which I thought, actually, let's just jump straight into something you said recently in a video. You posted a video the other day where you basically said, what do you do? Because you were asking your audience, you're like, what do you do when you're feeling a bit low about yourself, about your abilities, etc.? What do you do to kind of feel good again, like feel yourself, relax, unwind? And you were sort of saying like, I like to chill, listen to music, etc. But I was just curious, like, is that like a thing that you often sort of experience? And how do you generally overcome that? Because, I think you do kind of come across as quite a confident person, and you're like me, you are very kind of transparent with struggles and feelings and stuff like that. But in general, like, how do you overcome that feeling?
I do. It's a feeling I feel a lot, actually, and I'm glad that you think I come across confident, but actually I'm quite a shy person. I'm somewhere in between. I'm extroverted when I'm performing, but when I'm sort of me, that is sort of in real life, I'm quite introverted, and I find it really hard, especially in today's kind of social media driven world, as an artist, to be everywhere, do everything, be seeming to be creating non-stop content, as well as making music, which is the thing that the artists should be doing, making the music and putting the content, the songs out there, or whatever it may be. So the other day I was feeling quite overwhelmed with a lot of stuff I had to do, and then I was trying to record this vocal and it just wasn't happening, and I think I was just winding myself up, basically. And the only way for me to deal with this kind of situation is to just take a step back, turn the computer off, go and watch a film, or listen to some music, and come back to it the next day, or even the next day after that. That's the only way for me to deal with it.
I can totally relate to this, especially when I'm recording like music clips or doing a cover or something like that. And I'm sure you get the same thing, where it's like you come into it and for whatever reason on that particular day, you just can't hit that vocal. And that's something that you communicated actually in that. You're like, I just can't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. And it's the same for me. And sometimes I've got two different scenarios. Either one, I just give up on it for that particular day and come back to it. Or two, I get really wound up, I walk out, have a glass of water, come back, and I nail it in one take. And I'm like, what the hell? I just did it for like 30 times, and every time it sucked. And then that one time afterwards, nailed it. Like,
it's really weird. And I think also for me, I have a slight red light syndrome. So as soon as someone says record, or if I'm recording, something to camera, I feel like, oh my God, I can't do it. And then if I'm practicing off camera, it's like, yeah, no problem, I got it. And then as soon as I'm trying to do it again, it's or if I'm recording a vocal, it's really weird. But yeah, I totally understand. I get what you're saying.
You're onto something there. Like, I don't think I've ever explored this on the show, because I've had quite a few musicians over the course of nearly 2 years of the show. Wow. There is a difference somehow. Like, I've noticed this, like practicing before you're about to record and it's going great, sounds brilliant. As soon as you put that red button on, it's like just every mistake you can make. And sometimes, like, I get this with everything as well. Like, one thing I've started doing now is whenever I've got to do like voice acting self-tapes, sometimes I do a stream and I show people like, oh, hey, I'm doing this. And people seem to be interested, you know, whatever, different type of content, right? But same thing. And I'll make mistakes anyway, because that's just voice acting, you know, it happens, you know, you stifle your words, same with music, right? But then sometimes it's like, like the other day, I think I was, for a good 5 minutes, I was like, it just wasn't hitting. And I think
know.
There's something to it. I think it's maybe the pressure of the audience, the pressure of the occasion, something like that.
Yeah, it's really weird, but it's especially weird when I record my own vocals, right? So I sit here and I record my vocals. There's no one else here, but I press record, and there's a mistake or something. Then I'm like, okay, stop. I'll practice it. I'm like, yeah, got it, no problem. Then I press record again, and it's not there or whatever. It's crazy, but yeah, it's a weird syndrome.
Let's just sort of wind it back and just talk about your music, because I mean, music is a huge part of your life. I think in many ways you've kind of made it your lifestyle. Like it's you know, it's you. That's you communicating you, I suppose, is a way of putting it. But one thing I want to kind of touch on is your kind of musical journey. So talk to us about where it kind of started and walk us through to this current point.
Okay, sure. So I was raised in a household. My mum used to play music all the time, all the sort of hits, you know, Whitney, Aretha, Queen, a whole load of different things. So I was always around music. And it was just something I sort of just naturally fell into. I started playing the piano when I was about 6, classically trained on the piano.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now, but I'm grateful for the sort of musical knowledge it gave me. But singing was always something I did, but in private. I would do it in my room. I'd turn the music up to the max so no one would hear me. My parents didn't know I could sing. Yeah, they had no idea till I was about 15. And I'd been writing songs and everything, you know. And then we were on holiday one year, and I thought, there was a karaoke night in the hotel. And I was like, I have to do it. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it, right? So I got up and I sang Hopelessly Devoted to You from Greece. Had my back to the audience, like I didn't want anyone to see me, like I was so embarrassed. And it went really well, and my parents were like, what, you know, and I had like a standing ovation, which was really weird. But it kind of gave me the confidence it kind of made me think, okay, look, you've done that, so now let's just carry on, you know. So from then on, I just you know, started to perform in local events, community events. I entered, you know, little local competitions and things, made my first demos, and it just went from there. But it took me a really long time to sort of find what I wanted to do, or what I wanted to be as an artist, the direction I wanted to go, and also to be comfortable with myself as an artist, because a lot of the artists I admired sort of growing up were very, very, very pop. And I was trying to be like what was the current trend at the time. And that's not me. That's never been me. What I do is it's kind of a little bit niche. But I was trying to be like other artists, and it just didn't work. And I didn't have a circle of musicians around me. None of my friends were musicians. Everything I did was kind of like just by chance, or me just guessing my way through things, you know. And it wasn't until I met my songwriter producer in 2006 that everything took a different turn. We kind of just completely connected, and he knew what I wanted to do, which was kind of soul, funk, kind of blues kind of stuff, but with a modern twist. And that just, from there, we've just been writing ever since. And so every song I release as me, Nathalie Miranda, is a co-write now. And I can just be myself. And if I want to do a country song, I can do a country song, but it will still sound like me. If I wanted to do a rock song, it will be a rock song, but it will have my sort of stamp on it, you know. So but it took me a really long time to just sort of accept that I do sound different. I don't have the usual kind of radio friendly pop female voice. So that's why it's taken me a lot longer to get to this point where I'm really comfortable with what I do and I make the music that I want to make. And I just hope that other people will feel something from it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when I first heard your voice, first thing I thought was Avril Lavigne. No, not Avril Lavigne. What were we talking about? Maybe Avril Lavigne. No, what's her name? Christina Aguilera. That's it. Right.
Okay.
Straight away. And I remember hopping into one of your lives and I was like, sing some Aguilera, and you nailed it. And I was
that's
like,
exactly what you did. I remember.
I was like, I knew you would nail it, and that's why I requested it, because I was like, she'll do this. Like, it'll work. But the reason I wanted to bring this up was like, I disagree with you, but I disagree with you in the sense I only half disagree with you. So I'll explain what I mean by this.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, there were quite a few female singers like that. I think there was one called, I want to say her name's Anastasia, maybe.
Yes, I love Anastasia. Yeah.
But for those who don't know, female vocalist that, funnily enough, a lot of people have made meme comparisons that that Jack Black and Anastasia sound the same, and now I can't unhear that. Like, if you hear it, go back and check out Anastasia's big hit from the 2000s, and it's like, just imagine Jack Black singing. It's really funny.
Oh my goodness.
But no, my point is there were a lot of these female singers coming through at that time that had these powerful rock style voices, but were, by all intents and purposes, pop singers. Yes. And so if this were the 2000s, I'd disagree with you and be like, what do you mean? There's this singer, this singer, this singer. But these days, how many can you really think of? It's true. And I think it's less about like a lack of specifically female rock orientated singers. I think there's just, that old adage of maybe rock is dead. You hear people say that sometimes. I think one of the guests I had on the show, about 28 episodes ago or so, he's doing like, I don't know how to be, a sort of a music that's a blend of the 60s music and then kind of early 2000s stuff, right? And he kind of said that like the last hurrah of modern rock was kind of in the mid 2000s, to be honest. Like after that, it was just, I mean, what's in the charts now? You've got basically every kind of dance remix you could imagine. There's more of like a Latin, Spanish,
it's very reggaeton.
Yeah, that and that's one vibe. And then you've got a lot of stuff coming through from Europe. And then other than that, like everything kind of sounds the same, and there's not much in the way of like, it's weird like how much things change. Because I remember like, sorry, I'm rambling here. I will get to the point. In the early 2000s, like, especially in Britain, you had so many different styles. Like you could have
so many.
You know what I mean? Like I remember back in the day, like you could have Metallica and then something like Junior Senior.
Yeah.
One after the other on the same show. Like, what?
Yeah.
But you never see that.
Yeah. No, and I completely agree with you. And some might say, I'm just like getting old and I'm talking like this, but it's not. No. I genuinely feel that music is not as diverse as it used to be. It's a lot more. I mean, like you, I remember growing up and there was a whole bunch of artists in the charts. None of it was the same. You had, rock bands, you had pop, you had ballad singers, whatever. It was just completely different. And I feel like everything sounds the same now because I think record companies are scared to take risks. And this was actually another thing I spoke about on TikTok recently. Labels don't want to take any risks because they want everything ready. They want it to be a sure hit kind of thing. Whereas years ago, everything was a risk. You never knew. You didn't know what was going to happen. You just had to put your money on something, and if it didn't work, it didn't work. And if it worked, it took off in a big way. But that's why I think there is no diversity anymore. And I'm talking about musical diversity here. It's just everything just seems the same. And I think that's why artists like myself might struggle, because I don't make sort of R&B, dance, bop kind of tracks. Nothing against them. It's just not what I want to do. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. I just want to make the music that I want to make. I don't want to be told what to do. And that's probably made life a bit more difficult for me, but on the other hand, it just means that I'm happy with the music I'm making. So
I think it really depends on your goals in music, because one thing I will say with what you're saying is that I totally agree from the chart perspective, like what's popular.
Yes,
it's true.
absolutely.
It does all sound the same, but then that's relative. Because if we're talking, what do we mean when we say what's popular? Okay, Billboard 100, top 10, okay. But is that really the measure of modern success? I mean, if you look at like Spotify as an example now, you're getting lots of musicians, independent musicians, that are becoming big mainstream names as far as, they're known by everyone. Like there was this guy on during the pandemic, I can't remember his name, Tom something, and he famously released a track and it was getting quite a lot of views on Spotify, and I think he sort of pushed it on TikTok. That's how he got it going where it is now, right? And he documented his journey of like how it was growing, and he'd said that a lot of record companies reached out to him, and they were like, if you want this to get to the next level, you need to sign with us. And he said, well, I don't want to sign with you, I want to keep this music. And they apparently said to him, oh, well, if you do, it's not going to go anywhere, it's going to fail. And then it became like one of, like, it got like 130 million listens or something, and he was like, don't listen to them, do your own thing. And like, I don't know, like I feel like, going back to my point about the goals thing, I think it depends on what your goals are. So what are your goals specifically? Like, where do you want to take your music, and what are the sort of things you're aiming to achieve?
I mean, I would like my music to be, I guess, commercially known. Like, it doesn't have to be mainstream kind of thing, but because it's, it's probably not sort of top 10 sort of stuff, but
you never know. You never know.
I guess you never know. I guess, you're right. But I just, I guess I just want, I would like a larger audience to be listening to my music. And sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. I am an independent artist. I have no management. I have nothing. I do everything myself. And that is very hard. But equally, I keep all my rights. I have control over what I do, when I do, with whom, who I work with and stuff like that. And I enjoy having that control. So if any major labels did ever show interest, I would have a very hard time relinquishing that control. I'm not a 16-year-old that can be molded and stuff like that. I'm I'm a grown woman, and I know what I want, and I'm not going to be forced into signing anything or giving it away any rights and stuff like that. So it is kind of like a catch-22, because obviously, having that financial help, or having a manager or whatever helping you out a bit would be great. But when you think about it, what you're really giving away, in this day and age, it's I don't really think you need labels necessarily anymore, or the majors at least. Like maybe smaller independent labels are probably still very relevant. But I feel like you can just do so much on your own, and it's incredibly stressful, but you still can do a whole lot of stuff on your own. So, yeah.
I totally agree. I've had this conversation on the show many times, so apologies if for anyone listening that's had this before, but hey, it's going to happen. We're going to, this, because it's an important conversation to have. As I've said many times before, I agree with you. I don't think there is a need for major labels. I think there is maybe a need for distribution deals. I think there's work in those, but as far as like outright ownership or anything, like, for example, right, and this is a really rudimentary way of putting it, but let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say you come to me, right, and you're like, okay, well, I own all this, blah 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 blah, I want to employ you to be my, I don't know, social media manager or whatever. Like, that makes more sense. Build yourself a team, people you work with that either work for you, or if they are going to work with you, then there's I don't know, tiny car or like a working arrangement, whatever. Like, basically people you're paying to do that, as opposed to someone taking money from you, like, you know, and that's the problem with those record companies. In the past, and even to this day, you hear about people being locked into contracts that are ridiculous, as far as like they own certain rights to either you, your likeness, your money, your music in perpetuity. That's something that I remember hearing Dave Chappelle and Prince in particular talk about, was this idea of owning you in perpetuity. So like, and the artist, that's what they call it, the artist. And it's interesting to me, because it's like, they could pull that stuff in the 80s, 90s, but these days, I mean, everyone's self-aware. Like, as you put it, you know, it is a lot of hard work, but if the only thing is, okay, to get help if the issue is there's only a certain amount of hours in the day, and this is my budget, and this is what I need done, then surely the issue is, okay, just finding a few people that will help you with that, and then there you are. You know, you don't need social media has changed the game, I guess, is my point. Like, it
has. I mean, the one thing I do when I release a single is there's a PR company I use just to promote the single, because I tried to do it with previous singles, and I just didn't have the patience to do all the ads and things like that. So I just thought, listen, I'm just going to hand this over a couple of times a year when I release a single or whatever to somebody who knows what they're doing, and it will roll over for a couple of months or however long the sort of campaign is, and then that's it, you know. But everything else is I do, you know, it's nice to, you know, to accept the interviews I want to accept, or, you know, do the videos I want to do, or whatever, you know. So it's nice knowing that you have that power. And I think that's what social media, one positive thing social media has done. It's given the power in some form back to the artist, I think.
You know, I can't believe I've never asked any of my independent musician guests this, but what you were talking about just kind of reminded me, like, okay, since you don't have like a company telling you like, well, you should go on this show, you should interview with this person, like, how do you decide where to be interviewed, or who to talk to, or like, how do you come to that decision? What kind of criteria, I suppose, do you have?
I guess it's just like for example, with yourself, you know, we sort of met on TikTok, we're having a chat, you know, we obviously had things in common, we got on, you know, and so when you asked me to be on the show, I had a listen as well, and it was like, yeah, that's cool, you know, kind of thing. So you have to do a bit of research as well, right? Because sometimes you just don't have the same energy as someone else as well. You know, I have done interviews through the PR company when they've had interviews for my single releases, and I've had some interviews that I've accepted because of it's come through them, that I do them, but they're not especially interesting, or they're very sort of basic questions. And I mean, everything you do is a risk, right? But when with things like this, when people contact me directly, you know, I will just check out their page and see what they do, and see the kind of things they might ask me and things like that. So what's your like worst experience with an interview? You don't have to give specifics, obviously, but like something where you were just sitting there like, what am I doing here? What's going on? I haven't had anything like really bad in the sense that it's been like, oh my God, I have to stop this right now. But you know, some interviewers can be just like, it's very clear they haven't done any research on you, and they don't know.
I'll just interject for 1 second. That blows my mind. How can you do an interview and not do your research? That's like 101. Come on, like
I know, and it's just like, you know, like even down to a basic thing, like they might say my name wrong. They might call me Miranda when it's quite clear on all platforms that it's Nathalie Miranda, right? Some people just ignore the Nathalie.
Really?
Or all the time. Or they might say, so your most recent single, Red Light, for example, which came out 5 years ago, and you're just like, right, well, that was like 5 years ago. You know, it's just things like that it kind of, and then because I have to kind of style it out, you know, as the interviewee, I have to be like, oh yeah, well, that song came out 5 years ago, but yeah, you know, that was cool, or whatever, you know, and kind of just smooth it over without being rude.
Oh no, I mean,
But,
I think it's good you have a good attitude to it. I think if that was me, I'd be a bit halfway annoyed. I'd be like, well, come on, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep up with the time. I don't know. I don't know.
I know, yeah. I mean, but I've been lucky. I haven't had any complete disasters in terms of interviews. But no, I mean, yeah, it's all good.
Cool. Let's talk a bit about your sort of your I suppose your music career so far. Like, have you previously signed with record labels? I know you've shared some experiences on TikTok, which I kind of purposefully didn't look into because I wanted to kind of maybe share them here. But I want to kind of get an idea of the good and the bad of what you've experienced in the music industry so far.
Yeah, sure. No, I've never been signed ever.
Okay.
I've never had management or been signed to a label of any kind. It's always just been, a big old struggle for me. You know, in the early days, I would just send out CDs. You know,
Okay.
I just literally get like what's called the Music Management Bible. I don't know if it still exists, but it was a book full of addresses of record labels and managers and things like that. So I would literally just mail out a whole bunch of people with my CD, but never hear back from them. You know, I did all the gigs all around London, all the open mics. I've been doing it for years, and I never had any kind of break until this is what you might be talking about that you saw on TikTok. I did get scouted once by someone from Universal.
Oh, cool.
I was doing this gig in this really random place in town, and there was a guy there, and he was like, yeah, you know, you're really good, and he gave me his card, and it was, you know, we're having a really interesting chat, and he was asking me about my background or whatever, and he was like, okay, so here's the thing, I really like your sound, and you know, it's all really cool, but your actual life story is really boring. And I was like,
yeah. I remember you talking about it. Sorry, go on. Oh my
yeah. God. And I was like, I don't quite understand what you mean. And he was like, well, you know, you're educated, you went to university, you come from a good family, there's no drama or anything. That's not really going to sell records. And I was like, isn't it the music that's going to sell the records? Like, have I missed something here? Like, isn't it the song? And he's like, oh yeah, but like, you know, we need to like promote you and like, you know, press and all that. And I was like, well, I don't really understand what you want me to do. And he was like, okay, how about your dad is a cabbie, right? Your dad's a black cabbie, and your mum just like works in shops and stuff like that, you know, just like really like hard done by family kind of story. I'm like, what? You know, and he's like, and who gets into your dad's cab? Simon Cowell. And I'm like, are we really having this conversation? Like, first of all, you expect me to lie about my family, which I would never do. I'm very proud of my parents and everything they've done for me. Second of all, I don't really want to be involved with Simon Cowell. I don't want that name involved with me. And also, just like, what are you actually serious? Like, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, well, you know, we can't really kind of proceed unless you're willing to sort of change the story up a bit. I was like, I mean, also, you know, I have friends and family who would know that that's a complete lie. Why would I do that for the sake of a record con? I mean, it was just mad. So that was the only brush with the record company I've ever had.
see the craziest thing about this, right, is it's not like the 1970s where like you could like maybe make this up and then, you know, somehow, you know, get away with it. Like, this is the modern day. Like, it's that stuff is easily proved false, you know.
Oh,
and then
I know.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, it wouldn't make the record company look bad, it just make you look bad.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. And it was incredible. And you know, I mean, it's hilarious now when I think about it, and I even wrote a song about it after it actually happened. But it was cool. That's the only brush with any record company I've ever had, and apart from that, I've just been doing my thing, writing songs, you know, working with different people, and in the more recent times, just before the pandemic happened, I got involved in writing dance tracks, like house music. So I'd get producers sending me tracks, and I'd write the top line basically, and then put my vocal on it. And it started off being, I would just be unnamed, it would just be the song, you know. but then I worked with the same people a few times, and then it eventually was so and so featuring Nathalie Miranda kind of thing, and then other people would hear me and I'd get more writing work from that. So that was really good for me during the pandemic as well, just to sort of get loads of those out, you know, as well as doing my own thing. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm just still doing my thing. I'm still sort of hammering away at this this kind of dream I've had since I was really small. I know the industry has changed a lot. Like that kind of fantasy you might have of performing at Wembley to like thousands of people probably won't ever happen for me. But I still love performing. I love writing music. I love recording music. And it's always something I'm going to do. Whether I achieve what I want to achieve in terms of fan base or, you know, international sort of, you know, fame or whatever you want to call it, is irrelevant really, because I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and hopefully there's someone out there that enjoys listening to my music, and they'll tell a friend, and someone else will hear it, you know. So yeah, I think the way I've looked at it for several years now is that I want to make the music I want to make, and if anything else happens, then that's a bonus, you know, whether it's a song in a film or someone else taking my song and singing it and making it a success, whatever. It's I think that's just the way I've had to view it to kind of stay sane. But yeah,
I will say this, you know, because I've been writing music for a long time. I've been a musician for a long time myself.
Yeah.
And this is just subjective. Like I truly think you write very good music. And I think that, well, there's a couple of things I want to say, which I think it's not just aimed at you, it's aimed at anyone listening to this as well. Make sure you never give up on that dream. Like always keep chasing that dream. I can totally relate to how you feel. Even before we came on this show today, I saw that I'd like lost a bunch of subscribers and all that. And, you know, I saw like my latest podcast after I'd advertised it, it only got like a few listens, and it got frustrating. And then I started thinking about, you know what, like there's at least 3 people that sat down and checked out this podcast. That's 3 people. That's amazing. And then I started thinking about like why I do this, like what I'm trying to achieve, you know, because it'd be very easy to just interview people and, you know, pump out content and whatever. But like, I take pride in trying to share people's life stories, share inspiring tales, like look at the things people have learned and share that with the world and have a proper conversation with someone. And, you know, bringing it back to the music side of things, like Nathalie, all it takes is that one track.
Yeah.
Just one track. And here's the thing, like you'll never be like a one-hit wonder, because like you write good music, and what you've sort of demonstrated so far is that you have this life in music. You're a song, and I think this is an important distinction that people don't always necessarily realize. There's a big difference between being a musician and being a songwriter. You can definitely be both, but being a songwriter means you can do it kind of opens up possibilities as far as the music industry is concerned. So writing jingles, writing music for, I don't know, video games, for TV shows, whatever. That's like one part of it. And you mentioned that you did some of this work during the pandemic. I know that you've also done, is it chorus work, or there's some sort of thing that you do that you've kind of said like, oh, this is just a thing that I do.
Session work.
Session, yeah, but you're not as like infused with it. Like it's obviously you love to perform, but it's like not right. So but this is a source of income. This is a source of work. Yeah. And then there's what you're doing here, which is the main thing you're trying to really, really push and go for. And I think that, you know, you just have to keep pushing, and something will resonate. You know what I mean? It will happen. Yeah. And with regards to, no, I truly believe that, you know, like, look, I've been doing this podcast about 2 years now. I've been pushing for my dreams and goals for like 3 years, going on 4 years now. I know the struggle. I know it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't know. But this is part of the journey, you know. If it were easy, what would we learn? You know, I think if anything, it probably would make you appreciate it more when you get to where you want to get to, you know what I mean? But anyway, don't give up on that dream, because I think there's something to it. But it does bring me on to my next question, which is, you were able to obviously transition from, let's say, a day job to doing music full time. So this is kind of a two-parter. I guess I'd like to know a little bit about like what you did before you sort of made music your full-time career, and also what can you tell us about the transition from that, and what that was like, and how you did that? Because obviously it's quite a scary thing. Like, you know, I do freelance work, which I can tell you is never secure. I mean, no career is ever really truly secure, but it is scary, because it's like, you don't have work one week, it's like, well, you're just not getting paid, so what are you doing? What can you tell us about those things?
Okay, so before the pandemic, I had been in a part-time job. I was an HR assistant for about 3.5 years, and in a law firm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was furloughed, so I kind of was immediately flung into a case of, oh, I've got a lot of free time now, what am I going to do, kind of thing, because I didn't know when or if they would ask me to go back to work. So I either had two choices. I could just completely do nothing and be just like watch TV all day, or just really go hard into my music. And that's what I did. I practiced my vocals like I've never had time to before, because I never had the time. I'd be at work 8:30 till 6, 3 times a week, and then the other days I'd be doing my music, but it wouldn't give me the time I needed to do what I wanted to do. So I really went hard with that. I learned how to play the guitar a little bit, and I say a little bit, like 4 chords. I really learned more about recording my vocals more, and I did a lot of that with the house music that I was writing, recording. I really went into social media in a way I'd never done before the pandemic. I was live streaming on all the platforms, and doing a lot more sort of videos at home, you know, of me singing covers, some of my songs as well. And I wrote my song Catch 22 during that first lockdown as well. I wrote and recorded that. And I think that having all that time really allowed me to just find what I wanted to do, the music I wanted to make. The releases I'd had before that point were good, but they weren't really me. They were kind of more geared towards what you classify as a pop track, whereas what I like to do is a little bit more dramatic. So Catch 22 was the result of that. They asked me to go back to work in August of 2020, and by that time I decided I didn't want to, so I handed in my notice. I had to work the notice, but when I left, I felt a big weight off my shoulders, and it was very scary because I didn't have that money coming in anymore, but I had to find other ways of doing it. So I found this platform called stageit.com, which has completely changed my life. I'd highly recommend it to you as well. It's just a platform for performers. So whatever it is you do, if you're a guitarist, a singer, someone who likes to talk or poetry, whatever. And from that, I've been able to make some good money from that, sort of selling tickets, getting the tips. I managed to buy a MacBook earlier this year from the money I earned last year, which I would have been able to do without. So it's still tough. Like I have to, you know, when I'm coming up with a single release, I have to make sure I've got the money put aside for my PR work or whatever. Everything has to be calculated. But it feels good to know that I have 24 hours to do everything I need to do. I don't have to worry about going to the office or coming back or that kind of thing, you know. But it is tough, like I said, but it's that's why you had to take days off, for sure. You had to take some time off, even if it's just to sort of go into town for one day and just get a different scenery. So that's how I made the transition. And live streaming really did change a lot for me. I was able to reach a bigger fan base internationally and make an income from it as well, which has been amazing. I guess that's what I'm still doing. And yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, I think about my own experiences as well. I really relate to what you're saying, because I think one thing that should be really stressed here is there is that fear, there is that kind of concern of like, oh, well, I won't have this regular income, and like, what will happen? And, I think it's a case of firstly overcoming that fear. Secondly, as you say, realizing there are a certain amount of hours in the day. There are different things. We have this amazing resource, the internet, which, I do everything online. Everything I do, all the work I do is online. And it kind of blows my mind sometimes, because I think about all the years I worked in customer services and all that stuff. And, and then I think about, I was getting paid peanuts to do that. Whereas now I'm doing things like writing articles, doing voice acting, and they'll pay me for that.
I know.
And it's the same with music. It's like, wow, I wrote this in my room or my house, and it took me like however much time. Sometimes things are shorter, sometimes longer, and they paid me X amount of money, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's you got to take that risk on yourself. You've got to take that bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And
I think what you just said about the fear is another thing that I had to go through when I had to make that transition from part-time job to full-time musician. I was terrified, and I've wanted to quit the job for years. Almost after I started, I wanted to quit it. But it was the fear of quitting, which is why I never did it. And a friend of mine recommended this book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I tell all my friends about it. It's not a self-help book at all. It's not preachy in any way. It's just really to the point, matter of fact. And I read it and I went, I do all of that. I always say, once I've got this, I'll do that. Or when this happens, I'll do this. You know what I mean? And the whole point of the book is just, obviously, like, within reason, just do it. You're not going to know if you don't do it. So I read it and it inspired me to take the decision to quit my job. And I mean, it really was the best thing. I would have ended, even without the pandemic, I would have ended up quitting eventually. But you need to kind of just weigh things up. You're never going to have the perfect scenario in which to do whatever it is you need to do. So you need to just kind of weigh things up.
Since we're gauging into your expertise and your knowledge and experience, what advice could you give to aspiring songwriters and musicians?
I think from my own experience, I would say just, you have to believe in yourself. You really have to believe in what it is you do. You have to just block out all the noise that's coming from whoever it is that doesn't want you to do it, whether it's haters or whether it's, I don't know, friends or family that never think you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. You have to have that belief within yourself, and you have to just never give up. You have to just keep going. I had a problem when sort of in my sort of teens and early 20s. I didn't believe in myself, and I see that now. I really didn't. And I think maybe if I'd had the attitude I have now back then, maybe I would have sort of sped things up a bit for myself, or maybe I would have found different opportunities or opened up different doors for myself. But yeah, I would say that. Believe in yourself and never give up.
What would you say were like the key steps you took, or the things that you did to kind of take yourself from this person that didn't believe in themselves to this person you are now? Like, I know that is a journey. I know it's not something that just happens overnight, but like, what did you do? Because I know it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Like, I said that you came across as confident, like, and people say the same thing about me too. And I kind of recognize that you're probably someone who does doubt themselves, but you never know. Sometimes people truly do believe in themselves, and that's an amazing, powerful thing. And I think people should always try and believe in themselves, because everyone is talented and has something to offer. I truly believe that. But how did you take those steps and make that kind of that journey to where you are now as far as confidence is concerned?
So I would just start by saying I still doubt myself every single day, but I have this crazy thing somewhere in me that's just saying, don't give up, keep going, right? So that's what I do. I think it's just you know, experiences sort of get, as you get a bit older as well, you learn to just sort of, you're going to turn down all the peripheral kind of crap that's going on around you, or you know, be with the people that make you feel good, whether it's your friends or family. Surround yourself with people that do actually support you, that are going to give you the confidence and the motivation to be the best you can be, whatever it might be. You know, I'm lucky enough, I do have a very supportive family, and I have great friends that, you know, I might say, oh, that was crap. They'll be like, you're crazy, you know, just carry on, you know, kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's just that, just with a bit of experience as you get older, a bit more sort of learning more about the world and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I'm saying I believe in myself and I'm never going to give up. But obviously I do still, like the other day, I thought I was the worst singer in the world because I couldn't get this thing the way I wanted it. You know, so I have days like that, but then I have to be like, no, hang on, okay, listen, it's okay. I'll come back and I'll do it, you know. So yeah, it is a constant kind of back and forth, but ultimately I do believe in my music, and I think that's an important thing to do.
It's a powerful thing to believe in oneself, and it really is a battle. I completely agree with you. I feel exactly the same, and you know, it's interesting perception as well, and self-perception, because when I saw you posted that video, I was like, is she insane? She's an amazing singer. But I got it. I understand the feeling, because I have those days too. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, I'm so worthless, I can't do anything. Like, ugh. And then but it's not true. It's just a feeling. It's also, I think, and this is something we touched on before, but I want to just briefly touch on it. I think it depends how you define success. Because someone said this to me recently in a live stream, and it kind of clicked in my head. They said, well, how are you not a success? And I explained, oh, well, I don't have the numbers I'd like, and I don't do this and I don't do that. But then afterwards I sat down and I really thought about it, and I was like, no, I am a success. I might not be exactly where I want to be now, but when I compare where I was in my life 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, I'm like, oh my God, like, wow, like I'm doing it, you know. And I would say the same to you, like, you're doing it. You are in the music industry. You are an independent musician that gets paid to sing and perform and write music. Like, you're living the dream. You're just not quite at the exact level you want to be yet. But, you know, I think it's important to kind of ground yourself once in a while and be like, you know what, I am doing it. I am doing it. And one day it's going to pay off in a big way for me. And I think that can only happen through consistency as well.
Definitely.
You know? That's the thing. And it's tiring. I get it. It's tiring. It is one of those things that to constantly believe in yourself is, you know, we're human.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I totally agree. It's not easy. And the worst thing as well is in those moments of those difficult times, I mean, that's when you pay more attention to the critics as well, which is the stupidest thing to do, but it's inevitable. You are your own worst critic, and you know.
Oh yeah.
But that's when you start paying attention, and you should never pay attention to that. It's like you said before, you got to pay attention to the ones that are celebrating you and the ones that are supporting you, and focus on them and create for them.
Yes.
Let's as we're sort of winding things down, I've got a couple of questions for like general kind of life experience and stuff like that. So I just kind of gauge your mind as far as that's concerned. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I think it's going to be never give up and believe in yourself again. I think it's going to be the same. Yeah.
Yeah, no, perfect. I mean, I think we've spoken about it quite a lot throughout this episode, but yeah, I think if there's nothing else, if there's one thing that you take away from this episode, it's don't give up. There you go. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Don't be so trusting.
I
think I was very guilty of that for many years. I'm the kind of person, I'm quite kind of transparent, you know, like it's like what you see is what you get with me. I'm you know, and I kind of expected the same of people in the past, and you know, I didn't get the same treatment, you know, and again, my sort of circle of friends has got smaller over the years. You realize who's really there for you and who really cares for you and stuff like that. And yeah, I think you kind of just sort of take everything with a pinch of salt. Now, well, I do anyway nowadays. I kind of just have to, you know, think twice before I will sort of put my trust in somebody, I think.
I totally agree. It's funny. I was actually saying this to my housemate the other day, and I hope he took it in the right way, because I meant it in the right way. I said to him, "Oh, I think I consider us now as friends, but I didn't before. But not in a mean way. I liked you. It's just, for me, friend is a strong word.
Yes,
and
yeah.
It you know, and it's because of being burned in the past, having bad experiences. Yes. But what you've said is spot on, and I know you're coming at it from different experiences. So like some of that will be the music industry, some of that will be just people in life in general, whatever. But it's so true. Like, people can say what they want, but you know, you get vibes from people.
Yes.
You know, you can pick up on certain things. Just because someone's saying things that you want to hear, that doesn't necessarily mean they have your best intentions at heart.
Definitely.
I mean, I've had it even recently. I've had people that came into my life, everything seemed great, and then the next minute I realized they were like twisted, or they were, you know, like not meaning well for you. That's the thing I think you have to be very wary of. And what you were saying, like who you tell certain things to, what you say, you know, because I'm totally guilty of it as well, you know, being transparent, and then that, you know, then people know too much about you, and then it's like it's difficult to manage that sometimes. But yeah, totally agree with that one. As we draw things to a close for today, do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I definitely have more singles coming out this year. One of them will be a single in Greek. I am Greek Cypriot, so I'm very proud of that. So I wanted to write a song in Greek. It was really important to me to do that. So it's done. I just need to film a video for it, and that will be coming out in the next couple of months, hopefully. I've also got a new English single coming out at some point. That's also recorded. We just need to you know, mix it or whatever, and then there'll be a video for that too. Definitely more house music, house and dance music. That's kind of an ongoing thing that will always be just in the background. And yeah, I guess that's it really. Just keep doing what I'm doing, making more music, and yeah.
Brilliant. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I wish you all the best. I believe in you.
Thank you, Christian.
We all believe in you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve Podcast, as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.